Hello and welcome back to Stand By for Adventure. This is John. Big announcements today from Wizards of the Coast, and in addition to them, WizKids, the people who make Neverwinter. I can't remember. I used to work actually for Cryptic Studios, but I don't know who owns them now. But the Neverwinter computer game and all sorts of different stuff. I'm mostly going to cover the tabletop specific things. One item that, in addition to the Neverwinter, that I won't cover is they had a little teaser about the movie that's coming next year, or supposed to come next year, with Chris Pine and a few other people in it. And there was also, some other things that it just doesn't really matter. But the biggest announcement was that they're going to be re-releasing Spelljammer for this edition. I think the last time we really saw Spelljammer, I think, was in 2nd edition, but man, I can't even remember that. So this is coming really relatively soon. They announced Spelljammer, confirmed it. I'm going to run through this stuff really quickly because the presentation they did was only 30 minutes long, and I want this to be as quick as possible. So if you want to see the whole thing, go watch that. This is just going to hit the high points and show off some art and give a little bit of information so you can kind of get the most important bits right up front with this video. So this is coming in August 16th. It is a slipcase that comes with a double-sided map. It looks like a GM screen, and 3 64-page hardcover books. I don't particularly care for this format because it's probably just... Cat, come on. It's probably just an excuse to lump a bunch of books together and charge us $100 for what would normally be probably significantly less than that. I don't understand the point of making it 3 separate books instead of one single book that would be much cheaper to produce. I like the map. I like the GM screen coming with it. I like the slipcase. I just think it's adding lots of costs that I don't want to have to cover. Am I going to get it? Yep, I'm stupid. I'm going to get it. But I really wish they weren't going with this format, and I really hope this isn't what they do going forward. Here are the books. The Astral Adventures Guide, which includes 6 new races, which we'll get to in a second here. And I'm sure a bunch of other stuff, equipment, probably magic items, maybe new armor, weapons, all sorts of crazy stuff. Whoops, went back. Boo's Astral Menagerie. Boo is the giant miniature space hamster. I never understood Minsk or Boo. I didn't play any of those games. I don't like the goofiness of it. But it's not for me. So there you go. But it's going to have a bunch of monsters in it. 64 pages of monsters. And then there's an adventure, which is it sounds like a 12-part adventure, each chapter ending in a cliffhanger, called The Light of Xerxes. And I actually think these look really cool. And I like... they're way more colorful than I would have thought, but I think they're kind of playing off of the colorized versions of galaxies that like NASA releases, and that's kind of cool because it definitely gives you the feel of an outer space setting, right? And it's also very eye-catching and cool, and it's not dark and broody like a lot of D&D stuff has been. And I also like that, for instance, the cover of the Light of Xerxes adventure looks like a D&D adventure. It just flat out does. There's a dragon, there's some weird mysterious creature there. I like that they're making the outer space stuff look like fantasy as opposed to look like outer space stuff. Very, very cool, and I like what they're doing with this. I have a lot of confidence that they're going to treat Spelljammer in a way that will make it more attractive to people than it was in earlier editions. I actually used to work with Jeff Grubb at WizKids, and one day I was spouting off talking about whatever and said, yeah, I never really got into Spelljammer, I didn't really like it, and Jeff looked at me and was like, oh, what didn't you like exactly? And I was like, oh, I didn't get it, and blah, blah, blah. It went on. And of course, later I was like, why did he ask me that? And I looked it up, and sure enough, Jeff had created Spelljammer, so I'm just a big dumbhead. I'm looking forward to this, though. I have to admit, I am totally looking forward to this. This is one of the new player character races. These are the Astral Elves. I don't understand why there aren't Astral Humans, since there seems to be an elf for every single setting that exists. But hey, there you go. I think they look cool. They kind of have like a starry eye thing going on. We don't know anything more about them. These are the tech gnomes or gnomonomicons. I don't know. There's some kind of construct gnome creatures. Could be cool. They don't really do much for me in this appearance. Here are the... Oh, I forget the name, but it'll show up later. They had been called the Azirians when they were included in the old Star Frontiers role-playing game. But now they have a different name, but they're glidey monkey men, which, heck yeah, I'm playing a glidey monkey man. Give me a break. How fantastic. The GIF, who have been around for a long time, also introduced in Spelljammer. And these guys are obviously hippo men. They have no idea where they're coming or where they're from or where they came from, but where they're going or where they came from. But they are big, bulky dudes who explore the astral sea, and they seem pretty cool. Plasmoids. These are another race that came out of Star Frontiers. They renamed them just like the Azirians. They're now called plasmoids, but they were called Dralocytes, and you can see they're actually an ooze creature type. Ignore the giant space hamster. But these are literally oozes that you can play as player characters, and I love them. Love, love, love them. Thrycreen, another race that I just think probably not underused, but definitely need more attention. Cat, come on. Just wait. And they're going to be psychic. I assume that's going to be a slight tie-in to the future when they do Dark Suns, which I can only, or Dark Sun, which I can only imagine that they're going to be doing. Thrycreen just look awesome. They give me that whole Tars Tarkas feeling from the from John Carter of Mars series, and they're cool. Insect race, cool. Here's some art. So you can see all the color that I was talking about that's in this Spelljammer stuff. Very, very bright, very, very cool looking. I think it's gonna look amazing and fantastic. Here's some more art. Sorry I didn't have this on widescreen when I took a few of these screenshots, but you can see you're flying around in the middle of space on a wooden ship, and you can breathe, and it's awesome and cool, and you can have fights in space, and I don't know what happens when you fall, but it's probably not a good thing. More space, or more flying ship stuff. There's a big dragon. You can see I think this is probably a Githzerai with the what's that called? Telescope. And, yeah, that's right. Here's another shot of, let's see, it looks like a squid spaceship here. Some giant space whales. Very, very cool looking stuff. Somebody with about as much gold as PCs think they ought to always get in his boat there, and maybe a living meteor or asteroid up there that's coming after him. Maybe it's a beholder or something like that, with a huge nautilus in the background there. A giant dead god floating in space is what we have here, and this art I've seen flipped both ways, so I'm not sure which way it's supposed to actually be. But again, very, very cool visuals. Looking forward to seeing what this means and what can be done with this. Do you fly up to this thing's mouth and go in and start adventuring? I'm in. It looks fantastic. Space dragon, very, very cool. Very colorful. Looks different than regular dragons. No... well, it looks like there might be some wings there. I see a wing on the right-hand side of the image, but not on the left-hand side, oddly enough. So maybe that's just a fin or something like that. Oh, this is the leg here. So it actually is a little more like a wyvern than a full dragon, which is interesting. I think this is the sun dragon. They also had a moon dragon. I didn't care for the art. Another shipboard thing, giant dragon, giant whale, flying into the sun, probably not what you want to do. And then also today, available right now, if you are on D&D Beyond, they added 10 new monsters specifically tied into Spelljammer. And you can go check them out. If you look in, let me pull this up here, if I can find the right one here. If you look in D&D Beyond under Sources, which you can see here on my screen right now, and you go right down here, there's Monsters of the Multiverse, Monsters Compendium Volume 1, Spelljammer creatures, and these 10 creatures come up, and you can see each one of them. There is the Asteroid Spider. I may do a full review on each of these. That's a Challenge 15 monster. There is the Clockwork Horror, which actually looks pretty cool and seems to somehow be maybe affiliated in some way with the THAC0. It has a similar body structure, and it mentions some things about them in the write-up. The Eldritch Lich is a challenge rating 15 creature and looks suitably creepy and alien and aberrant and weird. It is, however, an undead. Very much looks like an aberration. A Fractine that looks like it's the Phantom Zone from Superman. Gonna have to look into that. Gadabout. Gadabout seems to be a living spacesuit. So it allows you to move around in space. I think it's supposed to be basically like a mount, except it goes on your back and over your head and allows you to live in space. Pretty cool. Challenge rating 1/8, so not very tough. The Goon Balloon. This is a weird little creature I kind of looked at because it has an 11 int and a 14 wisdom, and it has 6 hit points. Chaotic evil. I don't think these things really care about their lives very much. It looks like they run forward, get hit, explode, and do a bunch of damage, and they're a weird little creature. A Nightmare Beast. I love the art for this. This is our gargantuan monstrosity, challenge rating 16. It can teleport, it can gore you with those huge claws. It's a really cool looking monster. I love the color of it, that purple and the darker black, purple, and the gray. It's just a cool looking monster. And it teleports. Come on, this thing's going to be awesome. Puppeteer Parasite is a tiny aberration, challenge rating 3. Sounds like it's going to try and take you over and kill you. The Starlancer is a large celestial, challenge rating 2. Looks like it's probably just a very, very cool mount that has a big horn and can turn invisible. Yggdrasti. Yeah, Yggdrasti. That's interesting. So, thought to be, what does this say? Cast off splinters of Yggdrasil, the world tree. Yggdrasti look like gigantic dead trees covered with barnacles, blah, blah, blah. They fly around. Challenge rating 7 encounter. Look to be just a neutral, living, magical plant creature. And that's the 10 monsters that they added. You can go use these right now in your games, introduce them however you want. Maybe start your own Spelljammer game now. That would be an interesting attempt to do. Or maybe start with like on a standard D&D world, and maybe by the time the books come out, your characters would be high enough level that you'd say, okay, you get a ship and you head off out into space. You could actually do that now because there's monsters here, and you can adapt all the other D&D monsters, which I'm sure will also be found in Spelljammer. Very, very cool stuff. I recommend checking it out. Always good with new monsters. Here's some art for those monsters we already went through. WizKids is producing miniatures. Here you go. And this is the Hadozi, which is the flying monkey men, or gliding monkey men, who used to be called Azirians. The Hadozi, gonna be cool. I'm looking forward to them. You can see in the background there's a Plasmoid, which I think is the next mini. So we're gonna get a bunch of stuff. This one they didn't show, they kind of went past too quickly, but there's a THAC0 and I think a GIF back here. Yep, here's some GIFs and a THAC0. Here is Dohwar and a Space Swine. Yeah, okay, I'm down for the Space Swine. That actually looks much cooler than I thought it was going to look. I don't know who Dohwar is or what Dohwar is, but there you go. Cool minis coming. Giant space hamster, of course. So they did show this miniature as well, which is that sun dragon, and it actually has a second figure with a saddle, and the figure itself will bond right into it. So you can have it just the dragon, or you can have it be ridden by someone, which is very, very cool. I can't imagine these are going to be inexpensive models at this size, because that's a pretty big model to have a regular 28 or 32 millimeter creature on its back. Some more minis. I assume these are the Astral Elves, different appearances. The Astral Dreadnought, and you can see there's a little figure over in the corner right above my finger here to give you a sense of scale. So if this little guy is a 28 millimeter figure, the Astral Dreadnought obviously is gargantuan, both in regular terms and in game terms. Looks very cool. I'm not sure how many times I'm going to use a Astral Dreadnought in a game, but hey, there you go. It certainly would be cool to have a mini like that. And then they're also going to be doing, and I think this is a really cool thing to do, and I hope they do it in regular D&D for like ships and things like that, unless I'm spacing out and they already have. I don't think they have. But they're going to do ship-based combat. So you can see on this little map field they have here a couple of different ships, dragons, space whales, all sorts of cool stuff. So that could be very, very fun. I don't know if there's going to actually be a skirmish game for it, but that would be awesome if there were. Here's a sample of what the ship looks like. I think that's a really cool looking ship. I think it's one of the cooler looking ships I've seen in Spelljammer. Love it. And then they also announced a couple other things. Two of these campaign cases. This is the first one, which is the terrain campaign case, and you can see there's some, I don't know if this is just a fold-out playing board that you can just lie flat and draw on, but I think that's what that is. And then these are all tiles that you can lock together, so it's much like their board games like the Wrath of Ashardalon and those things that have the little hooks that they rest into each other, kind of like a puzzle piece. And then they have these sheets over here on this side that I'm pointing at here. These sheets are static cling pieces that you can use for terrain to put onto the map to create your battlefield. And it comes in what looks to be a kind of useful little case that you can store all this stuff in. So hooray, I think that's a great idea. My assumption is this is maybe gonna run $30 to $50. I hope it's not at the $50 range. I hope it's lower than that, because this is it's just useful. It's something everybody who plays D&D should have, so I hope they treat it as such. But maybe that makes them want to charge more because they think everybody should have it, so they should get as much money out of it as possible. But I hope it's accessible to as many people as possible. And here's the little case, and you can see it's got a little handhold on there. Looks great. These are the static clings. You can see there's a little one just above my finger here. There's like a gray twisty thing in the upper part of the image that has just been peeled off of that board. And then there's a spot in the middle of the sheet right there between these two pieces that it can go back on. I'm a little concerned that these static cling pieces are going to not last super long and not be sticky for a really long time, but I hope that's not the case. We'll see how it goes. And then they also did this campaign case, which is, they call it Campaign Case Creatures. And I'm sure we're going to see more and more of these sets if this one is successful. And you basically get 3 different sizes of, I'll say, poker chips, small, medium, and large. And then there are static clings that you can put on each of those and take off to prepare for your encounter, whatever monsters you happen to be using or creatures you happen to be using in your game. Also in a nice little case. I can't imagine this is a very large case. I think it's a really cool idea. This is, I think it's also funny that years ago there was a game called Clout that basically used poker chips with creatures printed on them, and you could use them in combat. And now D&D and Wizards of the Coast has just said, oh yeah, we're going to basically do the same thing, except they're little plastic round pieces, and then static cling goes on top, and you have tokens to move around the board. They're not going to be, they could not be anywhere near as expensive as miniatures are. And I think this is a great option for so many players. It takes up as little room as possible. It's useful. They're the right size. They're reusable. You can get more of these static cling packs to use with the miniatures. I'm sure they'll do additional sizes of them. I think it's a really good idea, and again, I hope this is not a particularly expensive product. Here's a little case with the handhold, you know, the handle on it. Again, I think it's a great idea. And if you look at the size of these tokens, that case is definitely not very large. I don't even know if it's as large as a single piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. So great size. I love it. And here's the 3 different sizes. You can see small, medium, large. It looks like there might even be another size there because I see some black tokens. Oh, it looks like they just have the sizes in different colors. So that makes sense because you could have 2 or 3 different sizes. You could have 2 or 3 different sides to a fight, and you could have them all be, this side is black, this side is white, this side is red, this side is blue. Good idea. That's a good idea. And these are the little static clings. And again, you can see right here, way up on the top of the picture, that looks like it's some kind of construct or something that they just peeled off of this big white token, and it goes back into the spot that's empty here on the sheet. Again, I have concerns about the static cling maintaining its clinginess, but my assumption is they've tested it and it's at least worthwhile. And here are pictures of what they look like in use and all the different images that you get. Like I said, I think it's a great idea. It's very, very cool. Like it a lot. I hope it's a reasonable price. I hope it's a very reasonable price, because this could be just really fantastic for gaming. You don't really need miniatures, right? This is really all you need. Miniatures are very, very cool, don't get me wrong. But if you're not somebody who wants to get into the miniature collecting side of things, this is absolutely a fantastic solution. And then they announced the Legends of the Multiverse Twitch stream game live play that's starting not even in a week, on April 27th, starting at 5 p.m. on Twitch, and it's going to include people like Jim Zub, Abrea, oh, I forget her last name, but I really like her, and Todd Kendrick, and a few other people. So there's going to be some really neat stuff going on there. I assume, since this is called Legends of the Multiverse, that they are going to be either playing in Spelljammer, or, well, it's almost guaranteed they're playing in Spelljammer, because I see he's got a little blaster gun, which is interesting. But it's also possible that this is going to be a lead-in to introducing or reintroducing Planescape and Sigil and that whole thing, which honestly I hope that is the case, because that would be so fantastically awesome. I would love that. It's also kind of funny because I think 2 or maybe even 3 of the characters in this group are plasmoids, so other people are liking the plasmoids too. One Monkey Man, which I'm also down with, and it looks like this woman in the background, who I think that's actually Abrea's character. No, that's not Abrea's character. Oh, that's Deborah Ann Wall's character named Sunny. I think she's a hobgoblin, and I love hobgoblins. They also announced Onslaught, which is being made by WizKids, and it is a skirmish game for D&D. This is probably the 600 billionth time they've attempted a skirmish game for D&D, and I guess we're going to see how this one works out. And who knows? I have no idea. And that is everything that I wanted to cover today on that whole walkthrough of D&D Direct, and what it was going to be and what they're doing with it. And it sounds like They're going to continue to make, let me just back up here. It sounds like they're going to continue to make things like this Monstrous Compendium. And my guess is, since this is free, that they might release these monsters. So there's a few options. Either this first one is free, these 10 monsters, as a way to get people excited and get them invested in Spelljammer, and then the ones down the road are going to be ones that they charge for, so like little downloadable expansion packs to your D&D Beyond membership. Maybe they cost $5-10, something like that. Or maybe they're just going to give them away for free and then eventually collect them into a book, which is absolutely what I would do. And in fact, I did when I worked at Green Renine, when we did 3, 4, 5 different series of weekly or whatever PDFs, and then we collected them into books at the end. Fantastic way to create content for people, because you can also edit and get playtest feedback as you are working on the other creatures. So I'm looking forward to this Monstrous Compendium thing, and I think the first 10 monsters look very, very cool. And yeah, they're going to keep doing more of that, which is fantastic. So we're going to see more and more monsters coming. Love it. This is not what I wanted to do with that, because I need to now do THAC0 Thursday. And today we are going to be talking about, very briefly, because I know I went over all the rest of that info. So if you look at this, this is a very large chart. But this is your list of weapons from the old AD&D Player's Handbook, and it has, the first line is the battle axe. It is 4 foot in length. Space required to use it is 4 feet, and it had space for all of them, so you needed to have a certain amount of space. Speed factor. So if you were in combat, you had to take into account your speed factor of your weapon, and it affected when you would go in combat and how quickly you could move. And there was also pluses and minuses to hit with different weapons based on the armor class that you were attempting to hit. So if you had a battle axe and you were trying to hit someone with no armor, you got a +2 to hit. If you were trying to hit someone with an armor class of 5, which I want to say is what Chainmail gave you, you would actually, and this is the stupid thing, it gave you a -1 to hit, so you effectively had armor class that was 1 better than what was listed. This was a really silly way to do things, but this gives you a clue and a peek into, if you've never played this game, AD&D, how many weird little modifiers and the weird bits of realism that they attempted to inject into the game, and that some people still really love. There are people who poo-poo every single edition of D&D except the one that they love. And I don't understand that entirely, because I think as we get better and understand game design and what makes games work better for everyone, I think it only makes sense to adapt to that. And I certainly find 5th edition to be my favorite edition of the game, and I've been playing since 1982. So there you go. That's THAC0 Thursday for today. If you want to check this out, I'm sure you can find this chart online. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's so goofy, and I remember playing with this. And I also remember my friend and I looking at the chart after a while and going, let's just ignore all of this. And that's exactly what we did. So there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope this was a good quick recap for you. And come on back. Stand by for adventure. Have yourself a good day.